Cole Mercer had one rule in this godforsaken desert: never interfere. So when he found the Apache woman bleeding out in the rocks, every hard-earned lesson told him to turn his horse around, walk away, survive. But something in her eyes, fury mixed with terror, stopped him cold. He reached down. She bit his hand. And right then, he made the decision that would ruin everything he thought he knew about staying alive. What happened next turned two enemies into something the frontier would never forgive. If you want to see where this story goes, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. I want to know how far this journey reaches. The desert didn't forgive mistakes. Cole Mercer learned that the hard way when he was 16, watching his father bleed out from a Comanche arrow, too far from help and too stubborn to scream. That was 23 years ago. The lesson stuck. He rode alone now, same as he always did. The horse beneath him, a scarred bay mare named Rust, moved with the mechanical efficiency of something that had long stopped caring about comfort. Cole didn't blame her. Out here, 50 miles from the nearest settlement and 100 from anything resembling law, comfort was a luxury for fools. The sun hammered down like it had a personal grudge. August in southern Arizona territory meant heat that turned your skin to leather and your patience to dust. Cole had been checking fence lines all morning on the far edge of his property, looking for breaks where cattle might wander through. Not that he had many cattle left. Drought had a way of thinning a herd faster than rustlers. He pulled up near a cluster of rocks, the kind that threw shade for maybe an hour around midday. Rust stopped without being asked, her head dropping toward a scrub of dried grass that wouldn't feed a rabbit. Cole dismounted, his boots hitting the dirt with a soft crunch. His canteen was half empty, which meant he'd need to turn back soon. He took a long pull of warm water, grimacing at the metallic taste. That's when he saw her. At first he thought it was just another rock formation, something dark against the lighter stone. Then the shape moved. Barely. A hand, maybe. Or a leg. Cole's jaw tightened. He'd been out here long enough to know that movement didn't always mean help was needed. Sometimes it meant trouble. Sometimes it meant a trap. He left Rust ground-tied and walked closer, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. Not drawn, just ready. The woman was crumpled against the base of a boulder, her body twisted at an angle that made his ribs ache just looking at it. Her skin was bronze, her hair black and matted with dirt and blood. Apache, he realized. No question. Her clothing gave her away, buckskin dress torn and stained, moccasins worn down to almost nothing. She wasn't moving anymore. Cole stopped about 10 feet out, scanning the area. No horses, no tracks besides hers, and those were erratic, dragging. She'd been alone for a while. That didn't make sense. Apache didn't travel alone, especially not women. He took another step. Her chest rose, shallow, stuttering. Still alive then. Damn it, he muttered. The smart thing, the only thing that made sense, was to leave. Apache and white settlers weren't exactly exchanging Christmas cards these days. The wars had cooled some, but not enough. Not out here. And a woman alone meant she'd either been cast out or was running from something. Either way, none of his business. He turned to go. Her eyes opened. Dark. Sharp. Fixed right on him. Cole froze. She didn't speak. Didn't scream. Just stared at him with the kind of intensity that made his skin prickle. Her lips moved, cracked, bleeding, but no sound came out. Then he saw it. Her left leg stretched out at an awkward angle, the torn fabric near her calf, and the twin puncture wounds swollen and black around the edges. Snakebite. Rattler by the look of it. Hell! He knelt down, keeping his distance. She flinched, tried to pull herself backward against the rock, but the effort cost her. Her breathing quickened, ragged and desperate. Easy, Cole said, his voice rough from disuse. He didn't talk much out here, didn't need to. I'm not going to hurt you. Her eyes said she didn't believe him. Fair enough. Cole glanced at the wound again. The venom had been working for a while, hours maybe. The swelling had spread halfway up her shin, the skin tight and discolored. If he left her here, she'd be dead by nightfall. Probably sooner. He sat back on his heels, rubbing a hand over his face. This was insane. He didn't know her, didn't owe her anything. And bringing an Apache woman back to his cabin? That was the kind of decision that got a man killed, or worse, run out of the territory by his own people. But that look in her eyes, that fire, It reminded him of something he'd buried a long time ago. "All right," he said, more to himself than to her. "All right." He stood and walked back to Rust, pulling a length of rope from his saddlebag. When he returned, the woman's eyes were closed again, her breathing shallow. He worked quickly, looping the rope under her arms and around her torso. She didn't resist. Couldn't, probably. Cole lifted her as gently as he could, trying not to jar the leg. She was lighter than he expected. Too light. Starvation, maybe, on top of everything else. He carried her to Rust, who shifted nervously but held steady. Getting her onto the horse took some doing. She groaned once, a low sound that cut through him like a blade, but she didn't wake. He climbed up behind her, holding her upright with one arm while the other guided Rust's reins. The ride back was slow. Every jolt made her body tense, even unconscious. Cole kept one eye on her face, watching for signs she was slipping further. Her skin was burning up, the fever already taking hold. The cabin appeared on the horizon just as the sun started its descent. It wasn't much. Rough-hewn logs, a single room, a roof that leaked when it rained. But it was shelter, and right now, that was all that mattered. Cole dismounted, then eased her down into his arms. She felt like she weighed nothing. He kicked the door open and carried her inside, laying her on the narrow cot against the far wall. The cabin smelled like dust and old coffee. He lit a lantern, the yellow light spilling across the room. Now came the hard part. He'd treated snake bites before, on cattle, mostly, but the principle was the same. You cut away the dead tissue, cleaned the wound, and hoped the venom didn't reach the heart. Most died anyway. But some didn't. Cole grabbed his knife, a bottle of whiskey, and a clean rag. He knelt beside the cot, rolling up her pant leg as carefully as he could. The wound was worse up close. The skin around the bite had turned a sickly purple, the tissue already starting to rot. He poured whiskey over the blade, then over the wound. She jerked, a sharp intake of breath, but didn't wake. He worked fast. The knife cut through the dead skin, dark blood oozing out thick and slow. He cleaned it as best he could, packing the wound with a poultice made from desert herbs, something an old Mexican vaquero had taught him years back. It probably wouldn't save her, but it was better than nothing. When he finished, he sat back, his hand shaking slightly. The room was silent except for her breathing, still too fast, too shallow. Cole stood and poured himself a drink from the whiskey bottle, downing it in one swallow. The burn felt good, grounding. He looked at her, lying there on his cot, her face slick with sweat. She was dying. Probably. And even if she lived through the night, what then? She'd wake up in a stranger's house, surrounded by the enemy. She'd fight. Maybe try to kill him. And if she didn't, someone else would, once word got out. He should have left her in the rocks. But he hadn't. Cole dragged a chair over to the cot and sat down, the wood creaking under his weight. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, watching her chest rise and fall. "Don't die," he said quietly. "Not after all that." The fever hit hard just after midnight. Cole had dozed off in the chair, his head tilted back against the wall, when her scream jolted him awake. She was thrashing on the cot, her body arching off the thin mattress, eyes wide and unseeing. "Easy!" Cole lunged forward, grabbing her shoulders. "Easy!" She twisted, her hand flying up and catching him across the jaw. The impact snapped his head to the side, stars bursting behind his eyes. He stumbled back, tasting blood. She was trying to get up, her legs tangling in the blanket he'd thrown over her. The wounded leg buckled and she collapsed, gasping. Cole moved in again, this time catching her wrists. She fought him, wild, desperate. Her strength surprised him, even weakened as she was. "Stop," he said, his voice low and firm. "You're gonna hurt yourself." She didn't stop. He pinned her wrist to the cot, using his weight to hold her down. She bucked once, twice, then went still, her breath coming in ragged sobs. Her eyes found his, still unfocused, still drowning in fever. But there was something else there now, confusion, maybe recognition. "You're safe," Cole said, though he wasn't sure that was true. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her lips moved. A word, maybe, or a curse. He couldn't tell. He held her there for another minute, waiting until her breathing slowed, until the tension in her body eased. Then he let go, sitting back on his heels. She turned her head away from him, her jaw clenched. Cole stood and walked to the basin, wetting a rag with cool water. When he came back, she didn't resist as he pressed it to her forehead, her neck. The fever was still climbing. He'd seen this before. Men caught in the grip of infection, their bodies burning themselves out from the inside. He stayed by her side through the night, changing the rag, checking the wound, whispering things he didn't remember afterward. At some point, she stopped thrashing. At some point, her breathing steadied. And at some point, Cole stopped checking the door. Dawn broke cold and gray. The desert had that way about it, burning you alive during the day, freezing you at night. Cole woke with a crick in his neck and his back screaming at him. He'd fallen asleep in the chair again, his arms crossed over his chest. The cabin was quiet. Too quiet. He sat up fast, his heart kicking against his ribs. The woman was still on the cot, but her eyes were open, wide open, and she was staring at him. Cole didn't move. Neither did she. The silence stretched, taut as a drawn bowstring. Then she spoke. One word, rough and broken, in a language he didn't understand. Cole shook his head slowly. I don't... She cut him off, her voice stronger now. Why? English, accented but clear. Why what? Cole asked. Why am I alive? He blinked, thrown. You were bitten. I brought you here. Her eyes narrowed. You should have left me. Probably. She shifted, trying to sit up, and pain flashed across her face. She fell back, breathing hard. Don't move, Cole said. You're still... I know what I am. Her gaze cut to the wound on her leg, then back to him. Who are you? Cole Mercer. And I am supposed to trust you. Doesn't seem like you got much choice. Her jaw tightened. There is always a choice. Then you're welcome to leave. Cole gestured toward the door. But you won't make it 50 yards. She didn't answer, but the fire in her eyes told him she wanted to try anyway. Cole stood, walking over to the stove. He poured water into a dented pot, setting it to boil. You need food, water, rest. After that, you do whatever the hell you want. I do not need your help. You're still breathing because of my help. That shut her up, for a moment anyway. Cole turned back to her. What's your name? She hesitated like the question was a trap. Naya, she said finally. All right, Naya. He ladled some broth into a tin cup, leftovers from yesterday's rabbit stew. Drink this. He brought it over, holding it out. She stared at it, then at him. It's not poisoned, Cole said dryly. How do I know? Because if I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have hauled you 10 miles on horseback. She took the cup, her hand shaking slightly. She drank slow, her eyes never leaving his. When she finished, she handed it back. Thank you. The words sounded like they cost her. Don't mention it. Cole returned to the stove, busying himself with breakfast. The silence settled again, but this time it felt different, less hostile. Maybe. Why did you save me? Naya asked after a while. Cole didn't answer right away. He cracked 2 eggs into the pan, watching them sizzle. I don't know, he said finally. And that was the truth. He glanced back at her. She was still watching him, but the sharpness in her gaze had softened, just a little. You should rest, Cole said. I have rested. Then rest more. A ghost of something, annoyance maybe, crossed her face, but she lay back, her eyes drifting closed. Cole finished cooking and ate standing up, his back to her. The eggs were overcooked. He didn't care. When he turned around again, she was asleep. He stood there for a long time, just watching her breathe. Then he walked outside into the cool morning air and wondered what the hell he'd just done. Over the next 2 days, Naya's fever broke. Slowly, reluctantly, but it broke. Cole kept the wound clean, changed the bandages, and made sure she ate. She didn't talk much, neither did he, but the silence between them shifted, grew less sharp. On the 3rd morning, he found her sitting up on the cot, her legs dangling over the edge. What are you doing? Cole asked. Testing. Testing what? If I can walk? You can't. She shot him a look that could have stripped paint. I will decide that. She pushed herself up, putting weight on her good leg first. Then slowly, she lowered her injured leg to the floor. Her face went white. Cole stepped forward, catching her before she collapsed. She grabbed his arm, her fingers digging in hard. Told you, he said quietly. I do not need. Yeah, you made that clear. He helped her back onto the cot. She sat there, breathing hard, her jaw clenched in frustration. Give it time, Cole said. I do not have time. Why not? She didn't answer. Cole studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, keep your secrets. He turned to leave. They will come looking, Naya said suddenly. Cole stopped. Who? My people. If they think I am alive, they will come. And if they find you here, she met his eyes, they will kill you. Good to know. He walked outside, leaving her to whatever thoughts were eating at her. The sun was already climbing, the heat building. Cole stood on the porch, looking out at the empty desert. Somewhere out there, people were looking for her. Maybe people were looking for him too, wondering where the hell he'd gone, why his cattle were wandering loose. He should take her back, drop her somewhere her people could find her. But he didn't move. Instead, he went to check the horses, his mind turning over the same questions again and again. Why did he save her? And what the hell was he supposed to do now? That night, Naya spoke again. Cole was sitting by the stove, mending a tear in his saddle strap, when her voice cut through the quiet. You live alone. It wasn't a question. Yeah, Cole said without looking up. Why? Why not? Most men need others, community, family. Most men aren't me. She was quiet for a moment. You have no wife? No children? No. Why? Cole set down the strap, finally looking at her. You always this nosy? I want to understand. Understand what? Why you saved me. He sighed, leaning back in his chair. I told you, I don't know. That is not an answer. It's the only one I got. Naya tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. You are not like other white men. That's supposed to be a compliment? An observation. Cole snorted. Well, observe quieter. I'm trying to work. But he didn't pick up the strap again, and Naya kept watching him, her dark eyes unreadable in the lamplight. Outside, the desert wind picked up, rattling the shutters. Inside, something fragile and dangerous had taken root. Neither of them knew it yet, but they would. The next morning arrived with the kind of stillness that made Cole uneasy. No wind, no birds, just the weight of the sun climbing over the horizon, turning the sky from gray to copper. He woke to find Naya already awake, propped up on one elbow, staring at the door. What is it? Cole asked, his voice rough with sleep. Listening. For what? Anything. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. You expecting company? Always. Cole swung his legs off the chair where he'd spent another uncomfortable night and walked to the window. He pulled back the edge of the burlap curtain, scanning the terrain. Nothing moved. The desert stretched out in every direction, empty and indifferent. We're alone, he said. For now. He let the curtain fall. You got a real optimistic outlook, you know that? I have a realistic one. Cole turned back to her. She was sitting fully upright now, her injured legs stretched out in front of her. The bandage needed changing. He could see a dark spot seeping through the cloth. Let me look at that, he said, moving toward her. She tensed. I can do it. You can barely stand. I said I can do it. Cole stopped a few feet away, crossing his arms. Fine, go ahead. She reached for the bandage, her fingers fumbling with the knot. Pain flickered across her face, but she didn't make a sound. The knot loosened. She started to unwrap it, slow and deliberate, her jaw set. Halfway through, her hands started shaking. She kept going. The last layer came away, revealing the wound. It looked better than it had, less swollen, the discoloration fading from black to a mottled purple-yellow. But it was still angry, still raw. Naya stared at it, her breathing shallow. It's healing, Cole said quietly. It is ugly. It's alive, that's what matters. She looked up at him, something unreadable in her eyes. Then she held out the soiled bandage. You will need to burn this. I know. He took it from her and walked outside, tossing it into the fire pit. The flames caught quickly, consuming the cloth in seconds. When he came back inside, Naya was lying down again, her face turned toward the wall. Cole gathered clean strips of cloth and the herb paste. He approached the cot slowly, giving her time to object. She didn't. He knelt beside her and went to work, cleaning the wound with water he'd boiled earlier. She flinched once when he pressed too hard, but otherwise stayed still. "Where did you learn this?" she asked after a while. "Learn what?" "To heal." "Trial and error, mostly. Had a horse get bit once? Tried everything I could think of. Some of it worked." "And the horse lived?" "For a while. Coyotes got her the next winter." Naya was quiet for a moment. "That's the way of things." "Yeah, usually is." He finished wrapping the bandage, tying it off with a knot that would hold but not cut off circulation. When he sat back, Naya turned her head to look at him. "You are careful," she said. "You'd rather I be rough?" "I am saying you do not have to be kind." "I'm not kind, I'm practical. You die. I wasted a lot of supplies." A flicker of something crossed her face. Amusement, maybe. "You are a bad liar," she said. Cole stood, brushing off his knees. "And you talk too much." "You say that often." "Because it's true." He walked back to the stove, starting on breakfast. Cornmeal mush again. He was running low on everything. He'd need to make a supply run soon, which meant leaving her alone. That sat wrong with him, though he couldn't say why. "How long have you lived here?" Naya asked. 7 years. "Alone the entire time?" "Mostly." "What does mostly mean?" Cole stirred the pot, keeping his eyes on the mush. "Had a partner once. Didn't work out." "What happened?" "He got drunk and tried to sell my cattle to a Mexican outfit. I shot him in the leg and ran him off." "You did not kill him?" "Thought about it. Decided it wasn't worth the trouble." "That was mercy." "That was laziness." Naya made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was hard to tell. Cole ladled the mush into 2 bowls and brought one over to her. She took it without comment, eating slowly. He sat in the chair, his own bowl balanced on his knee. They ate in silence, the only sound the scrape of spoons against tin. When Naya finished, she set the bowl aside and looked at him. "Why do you stay here?" "Where else would I go?" "Anywhere. A town. Another territory." "Towns ask questions. I don't like questions." "What are you running from?" Cole set his bowl down, leaning back in the chair. "Who says I'm running?" "Everyone is running from something." "That what you're doing? Running?" Her expression closed off. "I asked first. And I'm not answering." They stared at each other, a silent standoff. Finally, Naya looked away. "You are stubborn. Pot, meet kettle." "What does that mean?" "It means you're just as stubborn as I am." "That is not true." "Right. You just tried to walk on a leg that can't hold your weight because you're so flexible and easygoing." She glared at him, but there was no real heat in it. Cole stood, gathering the bowls. "Get some rest. I got work to do." "What work?" "Fence repair, checking the water, things that keep me from starving." "You are leaving me here?" "You planning on coming with me?" She hesitated, and he saw the war playing out behind her eyes. Pride versus practicality. "I will be fine," she said finally. "I know. That's why I'm asking if you're planning on doing something stupid while I'm gone." "I do not do stupid things." "You tried to walk 10 minutes ago." "That was different." "How?" "It was necessary." Cole shook his head, walking toward the door. "I'll be back in a few hours. Don't burn the place down." "I make no promises." He paused, looking back at her. She was smiling, just a little, just enough. "Great," he muttered, and stepped outside. The morning air hit him like a blessing. Cole stood on the porch for a moment, letting the space settle around him. He'd lived alone for so long that having another person in the cabin felt like trying to wear someone else's boots. It didn't fit right, but it didn't feel entirely wrong either, and that was what worried him. He walked to the small corral where Rust was waiting, already eyeing him with the tired patience of a creature that knew exactly how the day would go. He saddled her quickly, checked the cinch twice, and swung up. The ride out to the fence line took him along the ridge that overlooked the valley. From up here, he could see for miles. Nothing but rock and scrub and the occasional shadow of a hawk circling overhead. It was harsh country, unforgiving, but it was his. He found the break in the fence about an hour later. A section of wire had come loose, probably knocked down by a steer with more muscle than sense. Cole dismounted and set to work, pulling the wire taut and nailing it back into place. The sun climbed higher, and sweat started to soak through his shirt. He was hammering in the last nail when he heard it. A sound. Faint, distant. Hoofbeats. Cole froze, the hammer suspended in midair. He listened, counting the rhythm. 3 horses, maybe 4. Coming from the east. He dropped the hammer and moved to Rust, pulling his rifle from the saddle scabbard. He crouched low, using the rocks as cover, and waited. The riders appeared a few minutes later, silhouettes against the sky. They were moving slow, scanning the ground, looking for something, or someone. Cole's grip tightened on the rifle. He recognized the lead rider, a man named Dutch Calloway, a rancher from about 20 miles south. The other 2 he didn't know, but they had the look of hired guns. Hard faces, harder eyes. Dutch pulled up about 50 yards out, holding up a hand. The others stopped. "Mercer!" Dutch called out. "That you?" Cole didn't answer right away. He watched, measuring the distance, the angles. "Yeah," he said finally, standing up slow. "It's me." Dutch rode closer, his horse picking its way over the rocks. When he was close enough to talk without shouting, he stopped. "Didn't expect to find you out here," Dutch said. "Could say the same." Dutch glanced at the fence, then back at Cole. "Doing some repairs?" "That's generally what you do with a broken fence." Right. Dutch shifted in his saddle, his eyes flicking to the rifle in Cole's hands. "You see anyone pass through here recently?" "Like who?" "Apache woman, young, traveling alone." Cole's expression didn't change. Why would an Apache woman be traveling alone? "That's what we're trying to figure out." Dutch leaned forward, resting his hands on the saddle horn. "She killed a man 2 days ago, settler named Briggs, stabbed him in his own home." "That's so." "It is. We got a group together, tracking her. Trail went cold near your property line." Cole looked past Dutch at the other 2 riders. They were watching him with the kind of attention that made his skin crawl. "Haven't seen anyone," Cole said. "Been out here all morning." Dutch studied him for a long moment. "You sure about that?" "I'm sure." "Mind if we take a look around, just to be safe?" "Yeah, I mind." The tension in the air thickened. One of the hired guns shifted, his hand drifting toward his holster. Dutch held up a hand. "Easy. We're not looking for trouble, Mercer." "Then stop looking for it on my land." Dutch's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "All right, but if you do see her, you let someone know. She's dangerous." "I'll keep that in mind." Dutch pulled his horse around, motioning for the others to follow. They rode off the way they came, slow and deliberate. Cole watched until they disappeared over the ridge. Then he stood there for another 10 minutes, just to be sure. When he finally moved, his hands were shaking. He rode back to the cabin faster than he should have, Rust's hooves kicking up dust. His mind was racing, turning over everything Dutch had said. She killed a man. Maybe she had. Maybe she hadn't. But either way, she was being hunted. And if they found her at his cabin, they'd hang her first and ask questions never. He needed to get her out, tonight, before anyone else came looking. But when he burst through the cabin door, ready to tell her exactly that, he stopped cold. Naya was standing, not leaning, not holding on to anything, standing. Her weight was on her good leg, but her injured leg was touching the ground, bearing just enough to keep her upright. "What the hell are you doing?" Cole demanded. She looked at him, her face pale but determined. "Preparing." "For what?" "To leave." Cole shut the door behind him, crossing the room in 3 strides. "You can't leave. You can barely stand." "I heard horses earlier. They were close." "You heard?" He stopped, staring at her. "How?" "I listen. You should try it." "They were a mile out." "Sound carries in the desert." Cole dragged a hand down his face. "Yeah, well, they were looking for you, and they'll be back." "I know." "So you can't leave? Not yet?" "Then what do you suggest?" He opened his mouth, closed it. He didn't have an answer. Naya limped, actually limped step by agonizing step, over to the cot and sat down. Her hands were gripping the edge so hard her knuckles had gone white. "Tell me what they said," she said quietly. Cole hesitated. Then he told her. All of it. When he finished, Naya was staring at the floor, her jaw clenched. "I did not kill him," she said. "I didn't ask. I'm telling you anyway." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "Briggs attacked me. I was gathering water near his land. He came out of his house, grabbed me. I fought back. My knife found his ribs. I ran. Why were you alone? Because I left. Left what? My people. My family. I could not stay. Why not? Her eyes hardened. Because they would have given me to a man I did not choose, a man who would have used me until I broke. So I left, and now they will say I brought shame, that I deserve what happened. Cole was quiet for a long time. The man you stabbed, he said finally. He die? I do not know. I did not stay to find out. Dutch said he did. Then Dutch is either right or lying. Either way, they will hunt me. They already are. Naya nodded slowly. Then you should turn me in. What? It would be easier for you. Safer. Cole stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You think I pulled you out of the desert just to hand you over to a lynch mob? I think you are not a fool, and keeping me here makes you one. Maybe I am a fool. You're not. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know enough. They were standing close now, close enough that Cole could see the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. The fever might have broken, but she was still fighting, still barely holding on. I'm not turning you in, he said. Why? Because I don't hang women, even ones who stab settlers. He deserved it. I don't doubt that. Naya searched his face, looking for something. Whatever it was, she must have found it, because she nodded. Then I will leave tonight, she said. Like hell you will. I will not put you in danger. Too late. You already did, so sit down and shut up. She actually smiled at that. A real smile, small but genuine. You are very rude, she said, and you're very stubborn. We've established this. Cole walked over to the stove, pouring himself a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. He drank it anyway, trying to think. They'll come back, he said after a while. Dutch isn't the type to let things go. I know, so we need a plan. We? You got a better option? Naya shook her head slowly. Then yeah, we. She looked at him for a long time, something shifting in her expression, something that might have been trust. What do you propose? She asked. Cole set down the cup. We wait. If they come back, I'll deal with it. You stay quiet, stay hidden. And if they search the cabin? They won't. Not if I give them a reason to look somewhere else. What reason? I'll think of something. Naya tilted her head. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. She almost smiled again. Cole walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to check the horizon. Still clear. Get some rest, he said. I'll keep watch. You need rest too. I'll rest when you're safe. That may be never. Then I guess I'm not sleeping. Naya lay back on the cot, her eyes drifting closed. But Cole saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her hand stayed close to the knife she'd tucked under the blanket. She didn't trust easily. He didn't blame her. He settled into the chair, his rifle across his lap, and watched the desert turn gold as the sun began its slow descent. Hours passed, the shadows grew longer, and somewhere out there men with ropes and guns were still looking. Night came like a curtain dropping. One moment the sky was streaked with orange and pink. The next it was black, punctuated by stars so bright they looked close enough to touch. Cole lit a single lantern, keeping the flame low. Too much light would draw attention. He made a simple meal, beans and hardtack, and brought a portion to Naya. She ate without complaint, which told him she was either getting used to his cooking or too tired to care. How long will you keep this up? She asked. Keep what up? Protecting me? Long as I have to. That is not an answer. Sure it is. She set the plate aside. You owe me nothing. I know. Then why? Cole leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. You ever do something just because it felt like the right thing? Not because it made sense, not because it helped you, just because walking away would have felt worse? Naya considered that. Once. What'd you do? I left my family. That the right thing? I do not know yet. Cole nodded. Yeah, that's about how it goes. They fell into silence again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of quiet that came when two people had run out of walls to throw up. Naya shifted on the cot, wincing. Leg hurting? Cole asked. Always. Want more willow bark tea? No, it makes me slow. Slow's better than screaming. I do not scream. Everyone screams eventually. She looked at him, her eyes sharp. Do you? Cole met her gaze. Not anymore. What changed? I ran out of things worth screaming about. Naya didn't respond, but something in her expression softened. A coyote called out in the distance, its howl rising and falling like a question without an answer. Another joined in, then another, until the night was full of their voices. They sound lonely, Naya said quietly. They're not. They're hunting. Can something not be both? Cole thought about that. Yeah, I guess it can. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? Living alone. No family. No ties. Every damn day. The honesty of it surprised even him. Naya's eyes widened slightly. Then why do you stay? She asked. Because regret's easier than risk. That is cowardice. Maybe. You do not seem like a coward. You don't know me well enough to say that. I am learning. Cole stood, needing to move. He walked to the window again, checking the darkness. Nothing, just shadows and starlight. Behind him, he heard Naya shifting on the cot. Cole? It was the first time she'd used his name without prompting. He turned. Yeah? If they come tonight, they won't. But if they do what? They won't. She held his gaze. You cannot promise that. No, but I can promise I won't let them take you. That may cost you your life. Then it cost me my life. Naya shook her head slowly. You are a fool. You mentioned that already. I will keep mentioning it until you start listening. Cole almost smiled. Good luck with that. He returned to the chair, settling in for another long night. Naya watched him for a while, then finally closed her eyes. But sleep didn't come for either of them. The hours crawled past. Midnight came and went. The coyotes fell silent. The desert held its breath. And then, just before dawn, Cole heard it. Hoofbeats. He was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. Naya's eyes snapped open. How many? She whispered. Cole listened. 2, maybe 3. The same ones? Don't know. He moved to the window, peering out through a gap in the curtain. 3 riders, silhouettes against the pre-dawn gray. They were moving slow, cautious. One of them was Dutch. Stay down, Cole said. Don't make a sound. Naya slid off the cot, crouching low. Her hand found her knife. Cole checked the rifle's chamber, then moved to the door. He waited until the riders were close enough to hear, then stepped outside. The morning air was cold. His breath misted in front of him. Dutch pulled up about 20 feet out. The other 2 spread wide, flanking. Morning, Mercer, Dutch said. It's 4 a.m. Early bird gets the worm. What do you want, Dutch? Just checking in, making sure you're all right. I'm fine. That's good. Real good. Dutch's eyes drifted to the cabin. You alone in there? Who else would I be with? Just asking. Cole shifted his grip on the rifle. Not raising it, not yet. Just adjusting. You got a reason to be on my land at 4 a.m, Cole said. Or you just out for a ride? Found some tracks yesterday. After we talked. Led this way. Tracks can go a lot of places. True. But these ones came here. Cole's jaw tightened. You calling me a liar? I'm saying maybe you missed something. I didn't. Dutch leaned forward in his saddle. Mind if we take a look inside, just to be sure? Yeah, I mind. Mercer, get off my land, Dutch. The 2 flanking riders shifted, their hands moving toward their guns. Dutch held up a hand, stopping them. Easy, we're all friends here. Friends don't show up armed before sunrise. And friends don't harbor fugitives. The word hung in the air like smoke. Cole didn't blink. I'm not harboring anyone. Now get the hell off my property before I make you. Dutch stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. All right, Mercer, we'll go. But when we come back, and we will come back, it won't be a friendly visit. Looking forward to it, Dutch turned his horse, motioning for the others to follow. They rode off slow, taking their time. Cole stood on the porch until they were out of sight. Then he stood there for another 10 minutes, just to be sure. When he finally went back inside, Naya was standing by the cot, her face pale. They know, she said. They suspect. That is the same thing. No, it's not. He set the rifle down, running a hand through his hair. But they'll be back. Probably with more men. Then I need to leave. Now. You can't even walk 100 yards. I will manage. You'll die. Better than getting you killed. Cole crossed the room, stopping in front of her. You're not leaving. You cannot stop me. Try me. They stood there, inches apart, both too stubborn to back down. And then Naya swayed. Cole caught her before she fell, his hands on her arms. She grabbed his shoulders, holding on. I am fine, she said, but her voice was shaking. Yeah, you look it. He helped her back to the cot. She sat down hard, breathing like she'd run a mile. I hate this, she said quietly. I know. I hate being weak. You're not weak, you're hurt. There's a difference. She looked up at him, and for the first time he saw tears in her eyes. She blinked them away fast, but not fast enough. I do not cry, she said. I know. I do not. Okay. She wiped at her eyes, angry at herself. This is not who I am. Who are you then? Strong, capable. Not this. Cole knelt down so they were eye level. You got bit by a rattler and lived. You walked away from your entire life because you wouldn't let someone else choose it for you. You stabbed a man who tried to hurt you and didn't look back. That sounds pretty damn strong to me. Naya stared at him, something breaking in her expression. Why do you care? She whispered. I don't know. That is still not an answer. It's the only one I got. She reached out, her hand hesitating for a moment before touching his cheek. Her palm was warm, calloused. You are a strange man, Cole Mercer. Been told that before. I mean it as a compliment. I know. They stayed like that for a moment, the world narrowing down to just the two of them. Then Cole pulled back, standing. Get some rest. We'll figure this out. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Naya lay back, pulling the blanket over herself. You promise too much. Probably. It will get you killed. Maybe. You should be more careful. You should talk less. She smiled despite herself. Never. Cole returned to the chair, exhaustion pulling at him, but he didn't let himself sleep, because out there in the growing light of dawn, men were coming, and when they did, he'd be ready. Cole didn't sleep. He sat in that chair watching the window as the sky turned from black to gray to pale blue, his rifle across his knees and his mind working through possibilities that all ended badly. Naya slept fitfully, her breathing uneven, her body twitching every so often like she was running in her dreams. Probably was. Running from something, same as everyone else out here. When full daylight came, Cole finally stood, his back screaming at him. He was getting too old for this, too old for sleepless nights and borrowed trouble. But here he was anyway. He made coffee, the smell filling the small cabin. Strong and bitter, the way he liked it. Naya stirred at the sound of the pot clanking against the stove. You are awake, she said, her voice thick with sleep. Never went to sleep. She pushed herself up on one elbow, studying him. You look terrible. Feel worse. You cannot keep doing this. Doing what? Watching over me like I am a child. Cole poured 2 cups of coffee, bringing one to her. You got a better idea? She took the cup, wrapping both hands around it. Yes. I leave. Today. We already talked about this, and I'm talking about it again. She sipped the coffee, made a face. This is very bad. It'll wake you up. It tastes like dirt. Then don't drink it. She drank it anyway, grimacing with each sip. Cole returned to his own cup, standing by the window. The land outside was still and empty, but that didn't mean much. Men could hide in the rocks, in the arroyos, anywhere the shadows fell right. I have been thinking, Naya said. That's dangerous. I am serious. He turned to look at her. All right. What have you been thinking? About what you said. About them coming back. Yeah. They will not come alone next time. They will bring more men, maybe a dozen, maybe more. Probably. And you cannot fight a dozen men. Wasn't planning on fighting them. Then what were you planning? Cole took a long drink of coffee, stalling. The truth was, he didn't have a plan. Not a real one. Just a vague idea about standing his ground and hoping Dutch was more bark than bite. I'll figure it out, he said finally. That is not a plan. It's what I got. Naya set down her cup, swinging her legs over the side of the cot. The movement was smoother today, less pained. The swelling in her leg had gone down significantly, the wound starting to close properly. I can walk now, she said. Barely. Barely is enough. Not for what you're thinking. She stood, putting weight on both legs. Her face tightened, but she didn't fall, didn't even sway. See, she said, I am ready. To do what? Limp into the desert and die of thirst before sunset? I will not die. You don't know that. Neither do you. Cole set his cup down hard enough that coffee sloshed over the rim. You really want to leave that bad? I want to stop putting you in danger. Too late for that. It is not. If I leave now, you can tell them I forced you, that you tried to stop me, but I overpowered you. You think they'll believe that? They will if you are convincing. I'm a terrible liar. Then you will have to practice. Cole stared at her, trying to find the angle that would make her see reason, but the set of her jaw told him he was wasting his time. You're not leaving, he said. You cannot stop me. I can lock the door. I will break a window. I'll tie you to the bed. I will bite through the ropes. Despite everything, Cole almost smiled. You're the most aggravating woman I've ever met. Good. Then you will not miss me when I am gone. The words hit harder than they should have. Cole looked away, his throat tight. I didn't say that, he muttered. The cabin went quiet. When Cole finally looked back, Naya was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Why do you care if I live or die? She asked softly. I already told you. No. You told me you do not know. But I think you do know. You just will not say it. Cole's hands curled into fists. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is I'm tired of watching people die. That good enough for you? Who did you watch die? Everyone? My father, my mother, my brother. A woman I thought I'd marry. Everyone I ever gave a damn about ended up in the ground, and I'm done with it. So yeah, maybe I care if you live or die. Maybe I'm just selfish enough to want one person to walk away breathing. The words came out harsher than he meant them to, rough and jagged. Naya didn't flinch. I am sorry, she said. Don't be. Wasn't your fault. Still, I am sorry you have carried that alone. Cole turned back to the window, his jaw working. He didn't want her sympathy, didn't know what to do with it. The woman you loved, Naya said after a moment. What happened to her? Cholera, 12 years ago. We were supposed to get married in the spring. She didn't make it past winter. What was her name? Rebecca. Was she kind? Cole thought about it. She was tough. Tougher than me in some ways, but yeah, she was kind. You still love her. I still remember her. That's not the same thing. Naya was quiet for a while. Then she said, I think it is. Cole didn't argue. There wasn't a point. Outside, a hawk circled, riding the thermals. Cole watched it, envying its freedom. No ties, no debts, just the wind and the sky. If I stay, Naya said, breaking the silence, what happens when they come back? I tell them the truth, that you were hurt, and I helped you, nothing more. They will not believe you. Then I'll make them believe me. How? I don't know yet. Naya limped over to where he stood, stopping beside him. She was close enough that he could feel the heat coming off her skin, smell the faint scent of sage and smoke that clung to her hair. You cannot protect me forever, she said. I can try. And if you die trying, then I die. Won't be the first stupid thing I've done. She turned to face him fully, her dark eyes searching his. You are serious. As a heart attack. You would risk your life for someone you barely know. Apparently. That is insane. Yeah, I'm starting to notice a pattern. Naya shook her head, but there was something in her expression that looked almost like admiration. Or maybe disbelief. Hard to tell. I do not understand you, she said. That makes two of us. She reached out, her hand hovering near his arm. Then she let it drop. If I stay, she said, I will not hide. If they come, I will stand with you. The hell you will. You do not get to decide that. You can barely walk. I can stand. I can fight. That is enough. It is my choice, Cole, not yours. They stared at each other, neither willing to give ground. Finally, Cole sighed. You're going to get us both killed. Perhaps, but we will die standing. That's supposed to make me feel better? It should. Cole rubbed his eyes, exhaustion and frustration warring inside him. Fine. You want to make a stand, we'll make a stand. But if it goes sideways, you run. You hear me? You don't stop, you don't look back, you just run. And leave you? Yeah. No. Naya. No. If we do this, we do it together, or not at all. Cole wanted to argue, wanted to shake some sense into her. But looking at her face, at the set of her jaw and the fire in her eyes, he knew it was pointless. You're the stubbornest woman I've ever met, he said. You have said that already. Bears repeating. She almost smiled. Then we are agreed. If they come, we face them together. I didn't agree to anything. Yes, you did. Cole shook his head, but he didn't argue further. What was the point? He walked over to his gear, pulling out a second rifle and a box of ammunition. He checked the action, made sure it was clean and loaded. Then he handed it to Naya. You know how to use this? He asked. She took it, examining it with the practiced eye of someone who'd handled weapons before. Yes. Good. Because if it comes down to it, you're going to need it. Naya nodded, setting the rifle aside. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't survived this. But we will. You got a lot of faith for someone who just met me. I have faith in what I see. And I see a man who does not break. Cole didn't know what to say to that. So he said nothing. They spent the rest of the morning preparing. Cole reinforced the door with an extra bar, checked the windows, made sure they had enough water and ammunition. Naya cleaned her knife, sharpened it on a whetstone until the edge could split a hair. Around noon, Cole went outside to check the perimeter. The land was still empty, but the silence felt wrong, too complete, like the desert was holding its breath. When he came back inside, Naya was sitting on the cot, the rifle across her lap. She looked up when he entered. Anything? She asked. Not yet. They will come tonight. How do you know? Because that is what I would do. Wait until dark, when you are tired, when your guard is down. Cole considered that. Yeah, that tracks. So we prepare for tonight. Already am. He sat down in the chair, his body finally starting to catch up with the lack of sleep. His eyes felt like they'd been rubbed with sand, his thoughts sluggish. You need to rest, Naya said. I'm fine. You are not. You have been awake for more than a day. I'll sleep when this is over. If you collapse from exhaustion, you are no good to anyone. I'm not going to collapse. Naya stood, walking over to him. Before he could protest, she put her hand on his shoulder. Sleep. I will keep watch. You can't. I can, and I will. You have kept me alive. Now let me return the favor. Cole started to argue, but the weight of her hand on his shoulder, the calm certainty in her voice, made the words die in his throat. 2 hours, he said finally. You wake me in 2 hours. 4. 2. 3. Deal. He closed his eyes, intending to just rest them for a moment, but exhaustion pulled him under like a riptide, fast and irresistible. When he woke, the cabin was dim. Sunset light filtered through the cracks in the shutters, painting everything in shades of orange and red. Cole sat up fast, his heart hammering. What time is it? Naya was sitting by the window, the rifle in her hands. She looked over at him. Almost sunset. You let me sleep for hours. You needed it. I told you 2 hours, and I ignored you. Cole stood, his body protesting, but he felt better, clearer. Anything happen while I was out? Nothing. It has been quiet. Too quiet, Cole thought, but he didn't say it out loud. He walked over to the window, looking out. The sun was a red ball on the horizon, the sky bleeding out in shades of crimson and gold. Beautiful, if you ignored what was coming. They will be here soon, Naya said. Yeah. Are you afraid? Cole thought about it. Yeah, you? Yes? Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Or it gets you killed. That too. They stood there together, watching the sun disappear. When the last sliver of light vanished, darkness rushed in to fill the void. Cole lit a single lantern, keeping the flame low. Then he positioned himself by the door, rifle in hand. Naya took the window, her own weapon ready. Whatever happens, Cole said, you stay behind cover. You don't take risks. You don't try to be a hero. The same goes for you. I'm serious, Naya. So am I. He looked at her, really looked at her. In the lamplight, her face was all angles and shadows, her eyes dark and determined. She looked like someone who'd been fighting her whole life and had never learned how to stop. If we get through this, Cole said, remind me to never argue with you again. I will hold you to that. I know. The night settled in around them, thick and waiting. An hour passed, then 2. Cole's muscles ached from standing still, his nerves stretched wire tight. Then he heard it. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses, coming from the south. Here we go, he muttered. Naya shifted position, her rifle aimed at the window. How many? Cole listened. 6, maybe 7. We are outnumbered. Story of my life. The horses stopped about 50 yards out. Cole heard voices, low and indistinct. Planning. Strategizing. Then Dutch's voice cut through the darkness, loud and clear. Mercer, we know you're in there. Cole didn't answer. We know she's in there too. Send her out and there won't be any trouble. Cole glanced at Naya. She shook her head. Not a chance, Cole called back. Don't be stupid, Mercer. You can't win this. Maybe not, but I can make it expensive. A pause. Then Dutch again, his voice harder now. Last chance. Send her out or we're coming in. Cole raised his rifle, sighting through a gap in the shutters. He could see shapes moving in the darkness, spreading out to surround the cabin. Come on then, he shouted. Let's get this over with. For a moment, nothing happened. The night held its breath. Then a gunshot cracked the silence. The bullet punched through the shutter, embedding itself in the far wall. Naya dropped low, cursing. Cole returned fire, his shot wild but loud enough to make them think twice. More gunfire erupted, bullets slamming into the walls, the door, the shutters. Wood splintered, glass shattered. The cabin filled with the acrid smell of gunpowder. Cole fired again, aiming for muzzle flashes. Someone screamed, hit maybe, or just scared, hard to tell. How many rounds you got? He yelled to Naya. Enough! She fired through the window, the rifle bucking in her hands. Outside, a man cursed. She got one, someone shouted. Rush the door! That was Dutch. Rush the goddamn door! Cole heard footsteps pounding across the dirt. He swung his rifle toward the door, waiting. The first man hit the door with his shoulder. The wood shuddered, but held. He hit it again. This time the bar cracked. Cole fired through the door. The footsteps stopped. Someone moaned. Fall back! Dutch's voice, panicked now. Fall back! The gunfire intensified, a desperate barrage meant to provide cover. Cole and Naya hunkered down, waiting it out. Then, as suddenly as it started, the shooting stopped. Cole's ears rang in the silence. He risked a look through the shutter. The shapes were moving back, regrouping. You all right? He asked Naya. Yes. You? Still breathing. Then we are winning. I don't think they see it that way. Outside, Dutch's voice rose again. You're just delaying the inevitable, Mercer. We'll burn you out if we have to. Cole's stomach dropped. Fire. He hadn't thought of that. He is bluffing, Naya said. Maybe. Maybe not. A torch flared to life in the darkness, then another. Cole watched as 2 men approached the cabin, torches held high. They are not bluffing, Naya said quietly. Cole aimed carefully, his finger tightening on the trigger. The first torchbearer went down with a yelp, his torch falling into the dirt and sputtering out. The second man hesitated, then threw his torch at the cabin. It hit the wall and bounced off, the flames catching on the dry wood. Damn it, Cole muttered. The fire spread quickly, licking up the side of the cabin. Smoke started to seep through the cracks. We need to leave, Naya said. Not yet. Cole, not yet. He fired again, driving back another man trying to throw a torch. But there were too many of them, too many torches. The cabin was surrounded by flame now, the heat building. Smoke filled the room, thick and choking. Naya coughed, her eyes watering. Cole, we have to go. He knew she was right. Staying meant burning, but leaving meant facing 7 armed men in the open. Both options were death sentences. The back window, he said. Can you fit through? I think so. Then go. I'll cover you. No. We go together. Naya, together! Cole grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the back of the cabin. The small window was barely large enough for a person, the glass already cracked from the heat. He smashed out the remaining glass with the rifle butt, then boosted Naya up. She squeezed through, grunting with effort. Her injured leg caught on the frame, and she gasped, but she made it. Cole followed, his shoulders barely fitting. He dropped to the ground outside, landing hard. The night was chaos. Flames roaring, men shouting, gunfire still echoing. "Run," Cole said, grabbing Naya's hand. They ran into the darkness, away from the burning cabin, away from the men with guns. Naya stumbled, her leg giving out, but Cole caught her. He half carried, half dragged her toward the rocks, toward any cover he could find. Behind them, Dutch's voice rose in fury. "After them! Don't let them get away!" Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet. One passed so close to Cole's head he felt the air move. They reached the rocks and dove behind them just as the cabin's roof collapsed in a shower of sparks. Cole pressed himself against the stone, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Naya was beside him, her face streaked with soot and sweat. "What now?" she asked. "We wait. Hope they give up." "They will not give up. Then we fight." "We are 2 against 7. I faced worse odds." "When?" "I'm lying to make you feel better." Despite everything, Naya laughed. A short, breathless sound that shouldn't have existed in this moment, but did anyway. Cole checked his rifle. 3 rounds left. He had more ammunition in his belt, but not much. This wasn't a fight they could win, not straight up. "Stay here," he said. "Stay quiet. I'm going to try something." "What are you going to try?" "Something stupid." Before she could protest, he moved, low and fast, using the rocks for cover. He circled around, coming up on the men from the side. They were still focused on the burning cabin, thinking he and Naya were trapped inside or running blindly into the desert. Cole raised his rifle, aiming carefully. He fired once. A man dropped. The others scattered, shouting. Cole fired again, missing. His third shot clipped someone's arm. Then his rifle clicked empty. "There," Dutch's voice. "In the rocks!" 3 men turned toward him, their guns raised. Cole dropped the rifle and pulled his pistol. Slower, less accurate. But it was all he had. He fired, driving them back. But they were closing in, spreading out to flank him. This was it. This was where it ended. Then Naya's rifle cracked from behind him. One of the men went down. The other 2 dove for cover. Cole looked back. Naya had followed him, her rifle smoking. "I told you to stay put," he yelled, "and I ignored you." They fought back to back, firing at shadows and muzzle flashes. The world narrowed down to noise and smoke and the desperate need to survive. Cole's pistol ran dry. He fumbled for more ammunition, his hand shaking. A figure lunged out of the darkness. Cole swung the empty pistol, connecting with something solid. The man went down. Another came at him from the side. Naya's knife flashed, and the man screamed, clutching his arm. Then Dutch was there, his pistol aimed at Cole's chest. "End of the line, Mercer." Cole froze. Naya turned, her rifle coming up. "Don't," Dutch said, shifting his aim to her. "Drop it, or I drop him." Naya's hands tightened on the rifle. "Drop it!" Dutch roared. Slowly, Naya lowered the rifle. It hit the ground with a dull thud. Dutch smiled, cold and triumphant. "Smart girl. Now step away from him." "No," Naya said. "I said step away." "No." Dutch's finger tightened on the trigger. "Last chance." Cole looked at Naya. She looked back. And in that moment, inches apart, surrounded by enemies and fire and death, something passed between them. An understanding. A promise. If they died here, they died together. Cole reached out, his hand finding hers. She gripped it tight. "Together," she whispered. "Together," he agreed. Dutch cursed. "Fine. Have it your way." He raised the pistol, and then a voice cut through the darkness, strong, authoritative. "Lower your weapon." Everyone froze. A figure stepped into the firelight. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the dark uniform of a territorial marshal. "I said lower your weapon, Dutch." Dutch's face went pale. "Marshal Crawford, this isn't... You were just what? Burning a man's home? Attempting murder? She killed Briggs. We were just..." Briggs isn't dead. He's in the territorial hospital, recovering from a knife wound he earned trying to assault a woman half his size. I've already taken his statement. The words hung in the air like a verdict. Dutch's pistol wavered. But you thought wrong. Now lower your weapon before I arrest you for attempted murder. Dutch hesitated, then lowered the pistol. Crawford walked closer, his eyes sweeping over the burning cabin, the wounded men, the carnage. His gaze landed on Cole and Naya, still standing hand in hand. You two all right? He asked. Cole nodded, not trusting his voice. Crawford turned back to Dutch. You and your men are going to leave. Now. And if I hear about you coming anywhere near this property again, I'll throw you in a cell so deep you'll forget what sunlight looks like. We clear? Dutch's jaw worked. Yeah, we're clear. Then get out of my sight. Dutch and his remaining men retreated into the darkness, their footsteps fading. Crawford watched them go, then turned back to Cole and Naya. I got word from a Paiute trader that there was trouble brewing out here. Came as fast as I could. Looks like I was almost too late. Almost, Cole said, his voice hoarse. Crawford's eyes flicked to where their hands were still joined. He didn't comment. Miss, he said to Naya, you're free to go. Briggs withdrew his complaint once he sobered up and realized how it would look. Self-defense is legal, even in this territory. Naya nodded slowly. Crawford looked at the burning cabin. You're going to need a place to stay. Town's about 15 miles south. You're welcome there until you figure things out. I'll manage, Cole said. I'm sure you will. Crawford tipped his hat. But the offer stands. He mounted his horse and rode off, disappearing into the night as quickly as he'd appeared. Cole and Naya stood there in the aftermath, surrounded by ash and smoke and the dying embers of what used to be a home. We are alive, Naya said quietly. Yeah, they are gone. For now. The marshal said I am free. You heard him. Naya looked down at their joined hands. Neither of them had let go. What happens now? She asked. Cole looked at the ruins of his cabin, at the desert stretching out in every direction, at the woman standing beside him. I don't know, he said. But we'll figure it out. Together? He squeezed her hand. Yeah, together. The fire burned itself out sometime before dawn, leaving nothing but blackened timber and ash where Cole's cabin had stood. They sat on the rocks, watching it die, neither speaking, both too exhausted to move. When the first gray light touched the horizon, Naya finally let go of his hand. Cole felt the absence immediately, like cold water on skin. We should see what is left, she said. Not much point. It's all gone. Something always survives. She stood, favoring her good leg but moving with more steadiness than she had days before. Cole watched her walk toward the ruins, then followed. The heat still radiated from the wreckage, waves of it distorting the air. Naya picked her way around the edges, using a charred piece of wood to shift through the debris. Cole stood back, his throat tight. 7 years in that cabin. 7 years of solitude and silence and the kind of peace that came from having nothing left to lose. Now it was just carbon and memory. Here, Naya said, crouching down. Cole moved closer. She'd uncovered his saddlebag, scorched but intact. She pulled it free, brushing off the ash. Inside, his spare ammunition, some jerky that was now more charcoal than meat, and a small leather pouch. Naya handed him the pouch without opening it. Cole took it, knowing what was inside without looking. Letters from Rebecca. A pressed flower. A ring he'd never had the chance to give her. He shoved the pouch into his pocket. What else? He asked, his voice rough. They searched for another hour. They found his spare canteen, dented but functional. A cooking pot with a hole burned through the bottom. One boot, inexplicably unharmed. The rifle Naya had used was wedged under a fallen beam. The stock cracked, but the barrel still good. Not much, but something. When the sun was fully up, they stopped. Naya sat down on a relatively flat stone, her face drawn with exhaustion. Cole stood over what used to be his door, staring at nothing. I am sorry, Naya said. For what? You're home. This happened because of me. This happened because Dutch is an idiot with a short fuse and too much free time. Still, don't. Cole turned to look at her. Don't apologize for something that isn't your fault. Then whose fault is it? Mine. For getting involved. You regret it? Cole thought about that. About the moment he'd found her in the rocks. About every decision that had led from there to here. No, he said finally. I don't. Naya's expression softened. You are a strange man. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. Cole walked over and sat down beside her. His entire body ached. His lungs still burned from the smoke, and he was pretty sure he had a gash on his arm he hadn't noticed until now, but he was alive. They both were. What do we do now? Naya asked. Marshall said the town's 15 miles south. You want to go there? Don't have a lot of options. No shelter, no supplies. Can't exactly rebuild with a canteen and a broken rifle. Naya pulled her knife from her belt, examining the blade. I do not do well in towns. Neither do I. Then why go? Because the alternative is dying out here, and I'm not ready for that yet. She turned the knife over in her hands. People will stare. They will know what I am. Let them stare. It is not that simple. It is if you make it that simple. Naya looked at him, searching his face. You would walk into town with me, knowing what they will think? What they will say? I stopped caring what people think a long time ago. That is a lie. Everyone cares. All right, fine. I care. But I care more about not dying of thirst in the middle of the desert. So yeah, I'll walk into town with you. And if anyone has a problem with it, they can take it up with me. Naya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, You are either very brave or very stupid. I thought we established it's both. This time she smiled. A real one. Small and tired, but genuine. Cole stood, offering her his hand. She took it, letting him pull her up. We need to find Rust, he said, and hope she didn't run too far when the shooting started. They found the mare about a quarter-mile out, grazing on a patch of scrub grass like nothing had happened. She looked up when they approached, gave Cole a look that clearly said this was his fault, and went back to eating. At least someone had a good night, Cole muttered. He checked her over, making sure she hadn't been hurt. A few burns on her flank where embers had landed, nothing serious. He brushed them clean, murmuring apologies she ignored. Getting Naya onto the horse took some doing. Her leg was better but still weak, and Cole didn't have a saddle anymore. He boosted her up, then climbed on behind her. It was close quarters, her back against his chest, but neither of them complained. They rode south as the sun climbed higher, turning the desert into a furnace. Cole rationed the water, giving Naya more than he took for himself. She noticed but didn't argue. The land changed gradually. Fewer rocks, more scrub. The distant shapes of mountains turning from blue to purple to brown as they got closer. Around midday, Naya spoke. Tell me about the town. Never been there. Then tell me what you think it is like. Cole shrugged, the motion jostling her slightly. Small. Probably a general store, maybe a saloon. Church, if we're unlucky. People trying to scratch out a living, same as everywhere else. Will they help us? Depends on who we ask. That is not reassuring. Wasn't trying to be. They rode in silence for a while. Then Naya said, What will you do? After we arrive? Find work, I guess. See if anyone needs a hand. Save up enough to buy some land, start over. That will take years. I got years. And me? What will I do? Cole hesitated. He'd been trying not to think about that part. Whatever you want. You're free now. Marshall said so. Free to do what? Go back to my people who cast me out? Stay in a white town where I am not wanted? You could leave. Head west. California, maybe. I hear it's different there. Is that what you want? For me to leave? The question caught him off guard. I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I'm saying you got options. That's all. Naya was quiet. Cole felt her shoulders tense. Options, she repeated. Yes, I suppose I do. They didn't talk much after that. The town appeared in the distance around mid-afternoon, shimmering in the heat like a mirage. It was bigger than Cole expected. 2 main streets, a dozen buildings, the skeletal frame of something being constructed at the far end. They rode in slowly, drawing stares from the handful of people on the street. An old man sweeping the porch of what looked like a boarding house. A woman hanging laundry who stopped mid-motion to watch them pass. Two kids playing in the dirt who stood up and pointed. Cole felt Naya stiffen in front of him. Easy, he murmured. They are staring. Let them. He guided Russ toward the general store, a weathered building with a hand-painted sign that read Hutchins Mercantile. He dismounted, then helped Naya down. She stood close to him, her hand near her knife. A man stepped out of the store as they approached. Mid-50s, gray beard, eyes that had seen too much and forgotten most of it. Help you folks? He asked. Need supplies, Cole said, and information about work. The man's gaze flicked to Naya, then back to Cole. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Supplies I can do. Work might be harder to come by. I'll take whatever you got. The man nodded slowly. All right, come on in. The interior of the store was dim and cool, shelves stocked with everything from dry goods to tools to a barrel of pickles in the corner. The man moved behind the counter, pulling out a ledger. Name's Hutchins, he said. What are you looking for? Cole listed off the basics. Flour, beans, coffee, ammunition. Hutchins wrote it down, his handwriting surprisingly neat. That it? He asked. For now. Hutchins tallied the numbers. Comes to $8. Cole pulled out what was left of his money. $6 and some change, he set it on the counter. Hutchins looked at it, then at Cole. You're short. I know, I can work it off. Doing what? Whatever needs doing. Hutchins chewed on that for a moment. Then he glanced at Naya, who was standing near the door, her eyes scanning the street outside. She with you? He asked quietly. Yeah. That going to be a problem? Is it? Hutchins met his gaze. Not for me, but folks around here might have opinions. Let them have opinions, long as they keep them to themselves. Hutchins almost smiled. Fair enough. He pushed the ledger aside. There's a ranch about 5 miles east. Man named Carter runs it. Good man, mostly. He's been looking for help with his herd. Pay's not great, but it's steady. He gonna have a problem with me bringing her? Can't say. But Carter's practical. If you can work, he'll hire you. That's about all I know. Cole nodded. Appreciate it. Hutchins started gathering the supplies. As he worked, he said, There's a boarding house down the street, run by a widow named Mrs. Talbot. Rooms are cheap and she doesn't ask questions. She got a problem with, probably, but she needs the money more than she needs to be righteous. Just don't expect a warm welcome. Cole took the supplies, dividing them into 2 bundles. He handed the lighter one to Naya. One more thing, Hutchins said as they turned to leave. Marshal Crawford stops by every few weeks. He's due back soon. Might want to check in with him when he does. He's fair, but he likes to know who's in his territory. We already met. Hutchins raised an eyebrow. That's so. Long story. I'll bet. They left the store, stepping back into the brutal afternoon heat. Cole led Russ down the street toward the boarding house, Naya walking beside him. The building was 2 stories, white paint peeling in long strips. A sign out front read Talbot House, rooms available. Cole tied Russ to the post and knocked on the door. A woman answered, late 40s, severe face, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her eyes swept over Cole, then Naya, and her mouth pressed into a thin line. We're full, she said. Sign says you got rooms. Sign's wrong. Cole looked past her into the hallway. He could see 3 doors, all with keys in the locks. Empty rooms. I can pay, he said. I said we're full. Ma'am, I don't rent to Indians or to men who keep company with them. Good day. She started to close the door. Cole stuck his boot in the gap. Listen, he said, his voice low and hard. I've had a real bad couple of days. My home burned down. I've been shot at. I'm tired. I'm broke. And I'm not in the mood for this. So you can rent us a room, or I can stand here all day and make sure everyone who walks past knows you're turning away paying customers. Mrs. Talbot's face flushed red. How dare you? $4, 1 week. That's more than fair. They stared at each other. Finally, Mrs. Talbot stepped back, her lips pressed so tight they'd gone white. 1 week. Upstairs, last door on the left. Payment up front. And if there's any trouble, you're out. No refunds. Cole handed her 4 of his remaining dollars. She took them like they were contaminated. Breakfast is at 7, dinner at 6. You miss it, you go hungry. She looked at Naya. And she uses the back stairs. I won't have her parading through my establishment. Naya's hand moved toward her knife. Cole touched her arm, a gentle pressure. Understood, he said. Mrs. Talbot handed him a key and disappeared into the back of the house. Cole led the way upstairs, Naya following. The room was small. 2 narrow beds, a washstand, a window that looked out over the alley. The wallpaper was faded and peeling in one corner, but it was clean. Cole set down the supplies. Naya stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. You should not have done that, she said. Done what? Forced her to give us a room. Why not? Because now she hates you too. I can live with that. Naya stepped inside, closing the door behind her. You cannot fight everyone who treats me badly. Watch me. Cole, what? You want me to just let people like her get away with that? Yes, because it is not worth it. Her hatred does not matter. It matters to me. Naya walked over to the window, looking out. You're making this harder than it needs to be. How do you figure? Because you are trying to protect me from something that cannot be stopped. People will always hate what they do not understand. Fighting them one at a time will not change that. Maybe not, but it'll make me feel better. She turned to face him. Is that what this is? You feeling better? No, it's me not letting people treat you like dirt. Why? Because you're worth more than that. The words came out harder than he meant them to, rough with emotion he hadn't known was there. Naya stared at him, something flickering in her eyes. You barely know me, she said quietly. I know enough. What do you know? That I stabbed a man? That I ran away from my family? That I have brought nothing but trouble since the moment you found me? I know you're stronger than anyone I've ever met. I know you could have died a dozen times, but you fought through it anyway. I know you stood with me when you could have run. That's enough. Naya looked away, her jaw working. You are going to get yourself killed because of me. Then I'll die knowing I did something that mattered. I am not worth dying for. Let me decide that. She laughed, a bitter sound. You are impossible. Yeah, you mentioned that. They stood there in the small room, the afternoon light filtering through the dirty window. Cole's entire life fit in a saddlebag now. No home, no possessions, nothing but the clothes on his back and a woman who kept trying to leave for his own good. What happens now? Naya asked, echoing her earlier question. I go see Carter about work tomorrow. You rest. Let that leg finish healing. And after that? After that we figure it out, day by day. That is not a plan. It's the only plan I got. Naya moved to one of the beds, sitting down carefully. The springs creaked under her weight. I cannot stay here forever. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Cole sat on the other bed, suddenly exhausted. I'm not asking anything. I'm just saying you don't have to make any decisions right now. You can stay until you figure out what you want. That's all. And you? What do you want? The question hung in the air between them. Cole looked at her, at the way the light caught her face, at the strength and vulnerability warring in her expression. He thought about Rebecca, about the life he'd planned and lost, about 7 years of solitude and silence. I want to stop running, he said finally. From what happened, from what could happen. I want to stop being afraid of losing things, because I might actually have something to lose. Naya's eyes widened slightly. That is a lot to want. Yeah, I do not know if I can give you that. I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you the truth. She stood, walking over to him. She stopped a few feet away, close enough that he could see the exhaustion in every line of her body. I do not know how to do this, she said quietly. Do what? Trust someone. Let someone care. I have spent so long alone, even when I was surrounded by people. I do not know how to be anything else. Cole stood, closing the distance between them. Then we'll figure it out together, same as everything else. Naya looked up at him, her dark eyes searching his face. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. She reached up, her hand hesitating before touching his cheek. Her palm was warm, calloused from work and survival. You are a good man, Cole Mercer, she said. I'm really not. You are. You just do not see it. Before he could respond, she leaned up and kissed him. Brief, gentle. A question more than a statement. When she pulled back, Cole's heart was hammering in his chest. What was that for? he asked, his voice rough. For being stubborn, for not leaving me in the rocks, for making me believe that maybe I am worth something after all. Cole cupped her face in his hands. You're worth everything. This time when they kissed, it wasn't tentative. It was the collision of two people who'd been alone too long, who'd survived too much, who'd found something in each other they hadn't known they were looking for. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Naya rested her forehead against his chest. This is a bad idea, she murmured. Probably. We will hurt each other. Maybe. You're supposed to talk me out of this. I'm not that smart. She laughed, the sound muffled against his shirt. No, you are not. They stood there, holding each other in the fading light, two broken people trying to figure out how to be whole. Outside, the town moved on. People went about their business. The sun inched toward the horizon. The world kept turning, indifferent to what was happening in that small room above the boarding house. But for the first time in a long time, Cole didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt like he was living. The next morning, Cole left early to ride out to Carter's ranch. Naya wanted to come, but her leg was still weak, and they both knew showing up together wouldn't help his chances of getting hired. I will be fine, she said, though her hand kept drifting to her knife. There's food in the bag. Don't answer the door unless it's me. I know how to hide. I know you do, just humor me. She smiled slightly. Be careful. Always am. The ride to Carter's ranch took him through open country, the land rolling and empty. He found the place without trouble. A main house, a barn, corrals with cattle milling around. It was bigger than Cole expected, more prosperous. A man stepped out of the barn as Cole approached, tall, weathered, with the kind of face that had forgotten how to smile years ago. Help you? He called out. Looking for work. Heard you might be hiring. The man walked closer, sizing Cole up. You know cattle? Enough. Enough's not a ringing endorsement. I can ride, rope, and shoot straight, and I won't steal from you or get drunk on the job. That good enough? Carter almost smiled. Depends. Why are you looking for work? You running from something? Nothing illegal. That's not an answer. Cole met his gaze. I had a place. It burned down. I need money to start over. That's the whole story. Carter studied him for a long moment. Then he said, $1 a day plus meals. You sleep in the bunkhouse. Work starts at dawn, ends when the work's done. I don't tolerate laziness, backtalk, or stupidity. We clear? We're clear. When can you start? Tomorrow. Carter nodded. All right. Be here at sunup. He turned to walk away, then stopped. One more thing. I don't care what you did before you got here, long as it doesn't follow you. But if it does, you deal with it away from my property. Understood? Understood. Cole rode back to town, relief loosening the knot in his chest. $1 a day wasn't much, but it was something. A start. When he got back to the boarding house, he took the back stairs like Mrs. Talbot had demanded. He knocked on the door twice, their agreed signal. Naya opened it immediately, her knife in hand. When she saw it was him, she relaxed. You got the job? She asked. Yeah, start tomorrow. That is good. She didn't sound convinced. Cole stepped inside, closing the door. What's wrong? Nothing. Naya. She set the knife down, turning to face him. I went outside today, just to the alley, to see if anyone would notice. And? 3 men followed me. They did not touch me, but they made sure I knew they were there. Watching. Cole's hands curled into fists. What did they look like? Does it matter? They are not the first and they will not be the last. I'll talk to them. No, you will not, because that will make it worse. So what, you just stay inside, hidden? For now, yes? That's not a life? It is the life I have. Cole wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but looking at her face, at the resignation there, he knew she was right. In this town, in this territory, she would never be safe, never be welcome. Then we leave, he said. Naya blinked. What? We leave. Soon as I save up enough. We go somewhere else. Somewhere you don't have to hide. Where? This is everywhere. Not everywhere. There are places out west, communities where people don't care as much. We find one of those. And how long will that take? Months? Years? As long as it takes. Naya shook her head. You cannot plan your life around me. Why not? Because it is not fair to you. Let me worry about what's fair to me. She crossed her arms, a defensive gesture. What if I do not want to go west? What if I want to go back to my people? Then I'll help you get there. Just like that? Just like that. Naya stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she said, You are the most infuriating man I have ever met. So you've said. I mean it. I know. She walked to the window, looking out at the alley. I do not understand you, any of this. Why you care. Why you keep fighting for something that might not work. Cole moved to stand beside her. Because, for the first time in a long time, I have a reason to fight. That's why. Naya turned to look at him. I am afraid. It was the first time she'd admitted it out loud. Of what? Cole asked gently. Of this. Of needing someone. Of what happens when it falls apart. It might not fall apart. Everything falls apart eventually. Maybe. But maybe it's worth it anyway. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. I hope you're right. Me too. They stood there as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow, Cole would start work. Tomorrow they'd take another step forward. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And that was enough. The first week of work nearly killed him. Cole had forgotten how brutal cattle work could be. Dawn to dusk in the saddle, chasing strays through brush that tore at his clothes and skin, mending fences under a sun that felt personal in its cruelty. His hands blistered, then calloused. His back ached in new and creative ways. But he showed up every morning before sunrise, and he didn't complain. Carter noticed. On the 5th day, he handed Cole an extra 2 bits. For not being worthless, was all he said. The other ranch hands were less welcoming. 3 of them worked full-time. 2 brothers named Jack and Thomas, and an older man everyone called Slim, who wasn't slim at all. They kept their distance at first, watching Cole with the suspicion reserved for outsiders. It was Slim who finally broke the ice on the 8th day, passing Cole a canteen during a water break. Heard your place burned down, he said. Yeah. Heard Dutch Calloway had something to do with it. Cole took a drink, wiped his mouth. You heard right. Dutch is a mean son of a bitch. Most folks around here are scared of him. I noticed. Slim squinted at him. You ain't scared, though. Being scared and being stupid look about the same from the outside. That got a laugh. Fair point. Slim settled onto a rock, pulling out a plug of tobacco. Also heard you got an Apache woman staying with you at Talbot's. Cole's jaw tightened. News travels fast. Small town, not much else to talk about. Slim worked the tobacco into his cheek. That gonna be a problem? Depends on who's asking. I'm asking as someone who works next to you every day. Need to know if trouble's following you around. Cole met his eyes. The marshal cleared her. She's not wanted for anything, and she's not causing trouble. That's not what I asked. Then yeah, trouble might be following me, but I'll handle it if it shows up. Slim chewed thoughtfully, then nodded. All right then, just wanted to know where we stand. He walked away, leaving Cole with more questions than answers. That night, Cole returned to the boarding house bone-tired and covered in dust. He took the back stairs, knocked their signal, and waited. Naya opened the door. She'd been reading one of the books Cole had bought from Hutchins, a dime novel about an outlaw who found redemption. She set it aside as he entered. You look terrible, she said. Feel worse. He dropped onto his bed, not bothering to remove his boots. How was your day? Quiet. Boring. The same as yesterday. No one bothered you? I stayed inside like we agreed. No one knows I exist. The flatness in her voice made him sit up. Naya, I am fine. Just tired of these 4 walls. I know. I'm sorry. Do not apologize. This was my choice. But looking at her face, Cole wasn't sure that was true anymore. The second week was better in some ways, worse in others. The work remained brutal, but Cole's body adapted. He learned the rhythms of the ranch, the quirks of the cattle, the shortcuts that saved time. Jack and Thomas warmed up to him after he helped pull one of their steers out of a ravine, nearly getting kicked in the head for his trouble. They bought him a drink at the saloon that night, the first time he'd been inside since arriving. The place was loud and smoky, packed with men escaping their wives and their lives for a few hours. Cole nursed a whiskey at a corner table while Jack and Thomas played cards with some miners. "You gonna just sit there looking miserable?" Jack called over. "That's the plan. Come play a hand. We'll teach you how to lose money properly." Cole was about to decline when he noticed Dutch Calloway walk in. The room didn't go quiet, wasn't that dramatic? But the energy shifted. Dutch moved to the bar, ordered a drink, and surveyed the room like he owned it. His eyes landed on Cole. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then Dutch picked up his drink and walked over. "Mercer," he said. "Dutch. Heard you're working for Carter now." "News travels." "It does." Dutch pulled out a chair, sitting down uninvited. "Also heard you're still keeping company with that Apache woman." Cole's hand tightened around his glass. "What's it to you?" "Just making conversation. No harm in that." "There's plenty of harm in it, and we both know it." Dutch smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Look, I get it. We got off on the wrong foot. Things got out of hand. But that's all behind us now, right? No hard feelings. My cabin's still ashes, so yeah, I got some feelings. That was an accident. We were just trying to smoke you out. Didn't mean for the whole place to burn. You threw torches at a wooden building. What did you think would happen?" Dutch's smile faded. "You want an apology?" "Fine, I'm sorry." "There, we good?" "No." "Why not?" "Because you're not sorry. You're just worried I'll cause you trouble." Dutch leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Let me be real clear, Mercer. I don't like you. I don't like that woman you're protecting. But the marshal's watching, and I'm not stupid enough to push things while he's around. So yeah, we got a truce, whether you like it or not." "A truce means both sides stop fighting. You came after me first. And you should have turned her in, but you didn't, so here we are." Dutch stood, draining his drink. "Just stay out of my way and I'll stay out of yours. That's the best deal you're going to get." He walked away before Cole could respond. Jack came over a minute later, sliding into the empty seat. "What did Dutch want?" "To remind me he's an asshole." "Could have told you that for free." Jack signaled for another round. "He's been causing trouble for years. Thinks because he's got money and land, he can do whatever he wants." "Why doesn't anyone stop him?" "Who's gonna? The marshal's only here once a month. By the time he shows up, Dutch has already done his damage and covered his tracks, and most folks are too scared to stand up to him." "You scared?" Jack thought about it. "Smart enough to pick my battles. There's a difference." Cole couldn't argue with that. When he got back to the boarding house, it was past midnight. He expected Naya to be asleep, but she was sitting by the window, staring out at the darkness. "You are drunk," she said without turning around. "Little bit." "I could smell it from the stairs." Cole sat on his bed, pulling off his boots. "Had a run-in with Dutch." That got her attention. She turned, her eyes sharp. "What happened?" "Nothing. Just talking. He's playing nice while the marshal's around." "And when the marshal leaves?" "We'll deal with that when it happens." Naya stood, walking over to him. "You cannot keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Pretending everything is fine. Pretending we are not living on borrowed time." "I'm not pretending. I'm just not giving up." "There's a difference between not giving up and being foolish." Cole looked up at her. "You want to leave? Is that what this is?" "I want to stop putting you in danger. That is what this is. We've had this conversation, and we will keep having it until you listen." Cole stood, closing the distance between them. "I heard you the first time, and the second, and every time since. But I'm still here, and so are you, so maybe we just accept that and move forward." "Move forward to what?" "We have no plan, no future. We are just surviving day to day." "That's all anyone's doing out here. At least we're doing it together." Naya's eyes glistened in the lamplight. "I am afraid that one day you will wake up and realize I am not worth this, that you gave up everything for someone who cannot give you anything in return." Cole cupped her face in his hands. "You already gave me something. You gave me a reason to stop hiding. That is not enough. It is for me." She kissed him then, fierce and desperate, like she was trying to prove something, or maybe disprove it. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I do not know how to do this," she whispered. "Neither do I. But we'll figure it out." "You keep saying that." "Because I keep meaning it." 3 weeks in, things started to change. Cole had saved up $23. Not much, but more than he'd had since the fire. He started looking at land prices, asking around about parcels for sale. Most were too expensive or too far from water, but he kept looking. Naya's leg had healed enough that she could walk without limping. She started going outside more, taking short walks in the early morning when the town was still asleep. Cole worried every time she left, but he didn't stop her. She needed the freedom more than she needed his protection. One morning, she came back with wild flowers tucked into her belt. "Where'd you find those?" Cole asked. "There is a field about a mile north. No one goes there." She set the flowers in a tin cup filled with water. "I used to gather flowers with my mother, before everything changed." It was the first time she'd mentioned her family without bitterness. "You miss her," Cole said. "Sometimes. Other times I'm angry at her for not standing up for me, for choosing my father's pride over my happiness. Maybe she didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. She made hers. I made mine." Cole didn't argue. He was starting to understand that Naya's relationship with her past was complicated in ways he'd never fully grasp. All he could do was be there while she worked through it. That afternoon, Marshal Crawford rode into town. Cole was at the ranch when he heard, but he rode back immediately. He found the marshal at Hutchins' store, restocking supplies. "Mercer," Crawford said, tipping his hat. "Been wondering when you'd show up." "Heard you were back. Just got in an hour ago. How've you been?" "Alive?" Crawford smiled slightly. "That's something. How's the woman?" "She's good. Staying out of trouble." "Glad to hear it." Crawford paid for his supplies, then gestured toward the door. "Walk with me." They stepped outside into the afternoon heat. Crawford led the way down the street, nodding to people as they passed. "I've been hearing things," he said once they were out of earshot. "What kind of things?" "That Dutch Calloway's been making noise about you. Nothing concrete, just talk. But talk has a way of becoming action out here. He said we had a truce." "Dutch says a lot of things. Doesn't mean he believes them." Crawford stopped, turning to face Cole. "I can't be here all the time. And when I'm not, you're on your own. You understand that?" "Yeah." "So my advice, keep your head down, don't give him a reason to come after you." "I haven't done anything." "I know. But that doesn't always matter." Cole nodded slowly. "Appreciate the warning." Crawford clapped him on the shoulder. "You're a good man, Mercer. Just try to stay a live one." He rode out the next morning, leaving Cole with a knot in his stomach that wouldn't go away. A month became 2. Cole's savings grew to $47. He found a parcel of land about 10 miles west, 20 acres with a spring and enough flat ground for a cabin. The owner wanted $60, but said he'd hold it for 3 months if Cole could put down 20. Cole made the deal that afternoon. When he told Naya, she was sitting on her bed, mending one of his shirts. "You bought land," she said. "Put money down on it. Still got to pay the rest." "And then what?" "Then we build. Start over." "We?" Cole sat across from her. "Yeah, we. Unless you got other plans." Naya set down the shirt, her hands folding in her lap. "I do not know what I want." "That's all right. You got time to figure it out." "Do I? Or are you just saying that?" "I'm saying you don't have to decide anything right now, but when you do, I'm here. Whatever you choose." She looked at him for a long time. "You would let me leave even after buying land?" "I bought the land for me. If you want to be part of it, I'd like that. But it's not a trap. You're free to go whenever you want." Most men would not say that. "I'm not most men." "No," she said softly. "You are not." That night, Naya climbed into Cole's bed instead of her own. They held each other in the darkness, not talking, just breathing in sync. "I think I want to stay," she whispered eventually. "You sure?" "No, but I think I want to try." Cole kissed her forehead. "That's good enough for me." The trouble came on a Tuesday. Cole was at the ranch working with Slim to separate calves from their mothers when one of Carter's hands rode up fast. "Boss wants you back at the house," he said. "Now." Cole's gut tightened. "What's wrong?" "Didn't say, just said get you." He rode back with his heart in his throat, half expecting to find the place burned down or worse. But when he arrived, Carter was standing on the porch, arms crossed, looking grim. "We got a problem," Carter said. "What kind of problem?" The kind where Dutch Calloway showed up an hour ago asking if I knew I was employing a man who harbors fugitives. Cole's blood went cold. What'd you tell him? Told him to get off my property, but he made his point, said if I kept you on, I was complicit in whatever trouble you brought. Naya's not a fugitive. The marshal cleared her. I know that. You know that. But Dutch doesn't care. He's looking for leverage, and he thinks he found it. Cole dismounted, facing Carter head on. You firing me? Carter was quiet for a moment. No. But I'm telling you this is going to get worse before it gets better. Dutch has friends, influence. He can make things difficult for me if he wants. So what do you want me to do? I want you to be careful, and if it comes down to choosing between this job and that woman, you choose her. Because a job you can replace, a life you can't. Cole didn't know what to say to that. Carter sighed. Get back to work, and watch your back. Cole rode back to town as soon as his shift ended. He took the back stairs 2 at a time, burst through the door without knocking. Naya was on her feet instantly, knife in hand. When she saw it was him, she lowered it. What happened? She asked. He told her everything. When he finished, she was quiet. Then she said, I will leave. No. Cole, no, we're not doing this again. He's going to keep pushing until something breaks. And when it does, people will get hurt. Your boss, you, maybe me. I will not let that happen. Then what do we do? Run? Hide? Give Dutch exactly what he wants? We survive. That is what we do. Cole grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. I'm tired of just surviving. I want more than that. And I think you do too. Want does not matter. Reality does. Then let's change the reality. How? I don't know yet, but we will. Naya pulled away, walking to the window. You are asking me to have faith in something that might not exist. I'm asking you to have faith in us. She turned, and for the first time, Cole saw tears on her face. What if I do not know how? He crossed the room, pulling her into his arms. Then I'll have enough faith for both of us. She broke then, really broke, sobbing into his chest like all the walls she'd built had finally crumbled. Cole held her, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep, but meant with everything he had. When she finally quieted, she pulled back just enough to look at him. I'm tired of being afraid, she said. Me too. Then we stop. We stop being afraid, and we fight. Fight how? I do not know, but together. Cole kissed her, tasting salt and determination. Together. The plan came to Cole 3 days later while he was mending fence. It was risky, maybe stupid, but it was the only thing he could think of that might actually work. That night, he told Naya. You want to do what? She asked. I want to buy Dutch out. With what money? I got $47 saved. The land deal needs another 40. That leaves 7. I'll offer Dutch $20 to leave us alone, to call off whatever he's planning. He will never agree to that. Maybe not, but it's worth a try. And if he says no, then we know where we stand and we plan accordingly. Naya shook her head. This is insane. You got a better idea? She didn't. Cole found Dutch 2 days later at the saloon. He was at his usual table, cards in hand, a stack of chips in front of him. Can we talk? Cole asked. Dutch looked up, surprised. Mercer, didn't expect to see you here. He gestured to an empty chair. Sit. I'm winning anyway. Cole sat, acutely aware of the eyes watching them. I got a proposition, he said. I'm listening. I'll give you $20 to leave me and Naya alone. Stop spreading rumors, stop causing trouble. Just let us live in peace. Dutch stared at him. Then he laughed. You're serious. Dead serious. And you think $20 is enough to make me forget you embarrassed me? Made me look weak in front of my men? I think $20 is more than you'll get any other way. Dutch's smile faded. You got balls, Mercer. I'll give you that. He leaned forward. But here's the thing. This isn't about money. It never was. It's about respect. And you took mine when you chose her over common sense. Then what do you want? I want her gone. Out of this town. Out of this territory. I don't care where she goes, but she goes. Not happening. Then we got nothing to talk about. Cole stood. I tried to do this the easy way, and I appreciate that, but easy's not always available. Dutch picked up his cards again. You got until the end of the week. After that, I can't promise what happens. Cole walked out without another word. When he told Naya, she didn't look surprised. So we leave, she said. We fight. Cole, I'm done running, done letting people like Dutch dictate how we live. If he wants a fight, we give him one. And how do we do that? We make him look weak. Show everyone he's not as powerful as he thinks. That will only make him angrier. Good. Angry people make mistakes. Naya studied him. You have a plan. Not a good one, but yeah. Tell me. He told her. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, This could get us killed. Probably. But you're going to do it anyway. Yeah. Then I am with you. You sure? She took his hand. I have never been more sure of anything. The showdown happened on Saturday. Cole spread the word through Slim and the other ranch hands that Dutch had been threatening people, using his influence to bully anyone who stood up to him. He made sure it got back to the families Dutch had run off their land, the workers he'd shorted on pay, the people who'd been living in fear for years. By noon, a crowd had gathered in front of the saloon. Not everyone, but enough. Dutch came out looking annoyed. What's this about? We're tired of you, Slim said. Tired of your threats. Tired of looking over our shoulders. That's real touching, but unless you got a point, I got better things to do. The point, Cole said, stepping forward, is that you don't own this town, and you don't get to decide who stays and who goes. Dutch's eyes narrowed. You putting them up to this? I'm just saying what they've been thinking. Is that right? Dutch looked around at the crowd. Anyone else got something to say? A few people shifted uncomfortably. Then a woman stepped forward, older gray hair, face lined with years of hard work. You ran my husband off our land 3 years ago, she said. Said he owed you money he never borrowed. I've been scraping by ever since. Another voice rose. You shorted my pay last year, said I didn't work the full month when we both know I did. More voices joined. One by one, people stepped forward with grievances, with stories, with anger that had been building for years. Dutch's face darkened. You people got short memories. I employ half this town. Without me, without you, we'd find other work, Slim interrupted. Better work, from people who don't treat us like dirt. The crowd murmured agreement. Dutch's hand moved toward his gun. I wouldn't, Cole said. You threatening me? I'm reminding you there's witnesses, a lot of them, and the marshal might not be here now, but he'll hear about this. You really want to add murder to your list? Dutch's hand stopped, but his eyes promised violence. This isn't over, he said. Yeah, it is, Cole replied. You just don't know it yet. Dutch pushed through the crowd, his men following. But the damage was done. People were talking, sharing stories, realizing they weren't alone. That night, Cole waited for retaliation that didn't come. He is planning something, Naya said. I know. We should leave, tonight. And go where? He'll follow. This ends here or it doesn't end at all. She was quiet. Then she said, I do not want to lose you. You won't. You cannot promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to keep it from happening. Naya kissed him, slow and deep. Then we fight. The attack came 2 nights later. Cole woke to the smell of smoke. He bolted upright, saw flames licking under the door. Naya! She was already awake, already moving. They grabbed what they could, weapons, the small bag of money, Naya's knife, and ran for the window. The drop was 10 feet to the alley below. Cole went first, landing hard, then caught Naya as she jumped. They ran into the darkness as the boarding house erupted in flames behind them. People spilled into the streets, some trying to fight the fire, others just watching. Cole pulled Naya into the shadows, away from the crowd. Where do we go? She asked. Carter's ranch. It's the only place Dutch won't follow, not with witnesses. They ran through the night, following the road out of town. Behind them, the orange glow of the fire lit up the sky. They reached the ranch just before dawn. Carter met them at the door, rifle in hand. What happened? Cole told him. Carter cursed. Dutch has finally lost it. Arson's serious. Marshall will hang him for this. If we can prove it was him. Everyone knows it was him. That's enough. Carter let them in, gave them water and a place to sit. Cole's hands were shaking. Naya sat close, her knife still in her grip. "What now?" she asked. "Now we wait for the marshal," Carter said. "He's due back tomorrow. When he hears about this, he'll arrest Dutch." "And if he doesn't?" Cole asked. "Then we make him." The marshal arrived the next afternoon with a deputy Cole hadn't seen before. They rode straight to Carter's ranch after hearing about the fire. "Tell me everything," Crawford said. Cole did. When he finished, Crawford's face was hard. "You got proof it was Dutch?" 3 people saw his men near the boarding house right before the fire started, and Mrs. Talbot said she heard Dutch threaten to burn me out if I didn't leave. "That'll do." Crawford turned to his deputy. "Go get Dutch Calloway. Bring him in for questioning." The deputy rode off. Crawford looked at Cole and Naya. "This is going to get messy. Dutch has money. He'll lawyer up, drag this out. You prepared for that?" "We don't have a choice," Cole said. "There's always a choice. You could leave, start over somewhere else." "We're done running." Crawford nodded slowly. "All right then. But when this goes to trial, you both have to testify. You ready for that?" Naya spoke for the first time. "I am ready." "Good. Because Dutch will try to discredit you, make you look like the villain. You have to be strong." "I am strong." Crawford almost smiled. "Yeah, I can see that." The trial took 3 weeks to organize. In that time, Cole and Naya stayed at Carter's ranch. Cole worked to pay their keep. Naya helped with cooking and mending, slowly earning the respect of the ranch hands. Jack pulled Cole aside one morning. "She's tougher than she looks." "Yeah." "You gonna marry her?" The question caught Cole off guard. "Haven't thought that far ahead." "Well, start thinking. A woman like that doesn't come around twice." Cole thought about it all day. That night, he found Naya outside, looking at the stars. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Always. When this is over, when Dutch is dealt with and we get the land, what do you want?" "What do you mean?" "I mean for us, for the future." Naya turned to face him. "I want what we have now, but without the fear, without looking over our shoulders. That's all? That is everything." Cole pulled out the ring he'd been carrying since Rebecca died. He'd never known what to do with it until now. "Then marry me," he said. Naya stared at the ring. "Cole, I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other, but I also know I don't want to spend another day without you. So marry me. Build this life with me. Take the risk." Naya's eyes filled with tears. "I have nothing to give you." "You already gave me everything. Just say yes." She took the ring, her hands shaking. Then she slipped it on her finger. "Yes," she whispered. Cole kissed her, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, the future felt like something worth reaching for. The trial was brutal. Dutch's lawyer painted Naya as a savage who'd seduced Cole into protecting her. He brought up every prejudice, every stereotype, every ugly thing people believed about her people. Naya sat through it all, her face calm, her hands steady. When it was her turn to testify, she spoke clearly and without fear. She told the truth about Briggs, about running, about Cole finding her. She didn't embellish, didn't plead, just stated facts. The jury listened. When it was Cole's turn, he told them about the fire, about Dutch's threats, about the years of bullying and intimidation. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. When they came back, the verdict was guilty on all counts. Dutch Calloway was sentenced to 10 years in territorial prison. As they let him out, he looked at Cole one last time. "You think you won, but this territory doesn't forget. Neither do I." "Then I guess we'll both have to live with that," Cole said. Outside the courthouse, people congratulated them, some genuine, some grudging, but it didn't matter. They'd won. 2 months later, Cole and Naya stood on their land, looking at the half-built cabin. It wasn't much yet, just a frame and a roof, but it was theirs. "It will be beautiful when it is finished," Naya said. "It'll be functional. That's about all I can promise." "That is enough." They'd gotten married the week before in a small ceremony at Carter's ranch. No church, no priest. Just Carter, Slim, Jack, Thomas, and Marshall Crawford standing witness as they exchanged vows. Naya wore a simple dress she'd sewn herself. Cole wore his cleanest shirt, and when they kissed, it felt like sealing a promise that had been building since the day he pulled her out of the rocks. Now they worked side by side, building their future board by board. Some days were hard. Some days they fought. Some days the weight of everything that had happened threatened to crush them. But they kept going, because that's what you did when you found something worth fighting for. You didn't give up. You didn't run. You planted your feet, and you built something that could withstand the wind. One evening, as the sun set over their land, Naya leaned against Cole, both of them exhausted from the day's work. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Saving me?" Cole thought about his old cabin, his old life, the years of solitude he'd wrapped around himself like armor. "Not once," he said, "even with everything that happened? Especially because of everything that happened. You gave me a reason to stop hiding. That's worth more than any cabin." Naya turned to kiss him. "You saved me first. And you saved me right back. I'd say we're even. I would say we are just beginning." Cole looked out at the land, at the cabin taking shape, at the life they were building together. It wouldn't be easy. The territory was still harsh. People still stared. Dutch's friends still muttered threats from safe distances. But they had each other. And they had something more valuable than safety. They had the courage to choose it anyway. Because the truth Cole had learned, the truth Naya had shown him, was this. Survival was one thing, but living required something else entirely. It required vulnerability, trust, the willingness to risk everything for something that might not work out. Most people never took that risk. They chose safety over uncertainty, loneliness over heartbreak, existing over living. Cole had been one of those people for a long time, so had Naya, but they weren't anymore. They'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances, two people the world had tried to break. And instead of breaking, they'd chosen each other. They'd chosen to build instead of burn, to trust instead of fear, to love instead of survive. That was the lesson the desert had taught them, not through its harshness, but through their response to it. You could let the world make you hard and closed and alone. Or you could take the risk, open yourself up, let someone in. And yeah, it might end badly. You might lose everything. You might get hurt. But you might also find something worth keeping. As the last light faded from the sky, Cole took Naya's hand. She squeezed back, her ring catching the starlight. "Tomorrow we finish the walls," he said. "And then?" "Then we start on the rest of our lives." Naya smiled. "I like that plan." "Me too." They walked back to their tent, the temporary shelter they'd been living in while they built. Tomorrow, they'd work. The day after that, they'd work again. Day by day. Board by board. Building something that would last. Because that's what you did when you found your person in this brutal, beautiful world. You held on. You fought. You built. And you never, ever let go.